What happened in the French Revolution? Let's just see how it fulfilled these prophecies. This was the storming of the Bastille. And of course, at this very event, the whole political structure in the world changed. Whereas before you had monarchs ruling, now you have democracies. And democracies are going to rule everywhere. And that sounds very good. And we will see exactly what is behind all of these things later. So, Louis XVI, well, he lost his head, literally. And his head was held up before a cheering crowd as he went to the guillotine. And his wife, Marie Antoinette, did they have mercy on her? No. Her head was put on a stake and held up to a cheering crowd. And then they took a prostitute, excuse the picture, but this is what they actually did, with open breasts, and they called her Liberty. They made her a goddess, liberty leading. Now we read again what happened here in the book Great Controversy, tells it to us quite beautifully. When the goddess was brought into the convention, the orator took her by the hand. Turning to the assembly, he said, "Mortals, cease to tremble before the powerless thunders of a god, whom your fears have created." Wow, this is a public assembly. "Henceforth acknowledge no divinity but reason." Can you imagine that? "I offer you its noblest and purest image. If you must have idols, sacrifice only to such as this. Fall before the august Senate of freedom, veil of reason." So here was a power that had taken away the word of God and replaced it with a goddess of reason. But fortunately, Jesus told us ahead of time that it would happen. And this means that this goddess of reason takes the place of Jesus Christ only in appearance. The goddess, after being embraced by the president, was mounted on a magnificent car and conducted amidst an immense crowd to the Cathedral of Notre Dame. So it was made official to take the place of the deity. Then she was elevated on the high altar and received the adoration of all present. So the government adored this lady. This is how it was done. She was taken through the streets. She was put onto a cart. She had a sun symbol, and it said, "Goddess of Reason," over there. And she was enthroned in Notre Dame. And that which they believed Christianity had stood for was swept away by the legislature. And the Old Testament and the New Testaments were burnt, and all religious books were burnt on a funeral pyre, and a new law replaced God's law. Can we replace God's law? I don't think so. That scroll that flies through heaven, the Word of God, condemns us of right and of wrong, measures us according to its standard, irrespective of whether another institute raises up another standard, right or wrong. Yes? And so, tonight we will see how this battle continued, how one standard was laid aside, and how mankind adopted another standard. And may God help us to choose between standards. What happens when you replace God's standard with human standards? Human standards are made to look good, but obviously they have their problems. Well, during the French Revolution, a new standard for mankind evolved. And this standard was termed the Manifesto of Human Rights. By the way, if you listen to the media today, do you hear God's law, God's law, God's law, or do you hear human rights, human rights, human rights? What do you hear? You hear human rights. Now, isn't it fascinating that the French published their first manifest of human rights in this form? Isn't that fascinating? As 2 tablets of stone. What does that actually represent? The law of God. Here was man putting down another law. This is fascinating stuff. Oh, there's so much symbolism in this. It's way too big to deal with this tiny slide. I will put it up in another lecture in all its glorious detail and show you the symbolism behind it. I'll just mention just one. This here, a bundle of rods. A bundle of rods. This one over there, a serpent with its tail in its mouth. That one over there, the all-seeing eye in a triangle. Interesting symbolism. This one's fascinating. A bundle of rods, what does that mean? Those were fasciae. Fasciae. You see, the Roman proconsul, he took a bundle of rods, fasciae, and he took them upon the mount, and if he was accepted as the leader of all, he put a wreath around it. And he was all-powerful and in command, all controlled through the power of one man. It's called fascism. Fasciae, fascism. If you think of Adolf Hitler, fascism. If you think of Mussolini, all power in one man. He was called the Führer. Is that right? Okay? And that is the system of control. Now, human rights, what has that got to do with fascism? Isn't that kind of interesting? I would say it's kind of interesting, but we'll leave it for another lecture. The first charter of rights to nations was actually declared by Cyrus the Great. In the Persian culture, there was this great fundamental principle: good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Cyrus the Great. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. And his manifest went like this: when my soldiers in great numbers peacefully entered Babylon, I did not allow anyone to terrorize the people. I kept in view the needs of people in all its sanctuaries to promote their well-being, freed all the slaves. Isn't it interesting that Napoleon freed all the slavery and he ended religious suppression and all these things? I put an end to their misfortune and slavery. That was quite a good manifest. And I mean, human rights look pretty good. We read on in the Great Controversy, century after century, the blood of saints had been shed. She talks about the Valdenzers, the Albigensers, and she talks about the Protestants who were slaughtered, and much of it by the power of France. This is the Inquisition